In the last class, we have discussed about variables, why they are actually necessary. Uh, we started our discussion with identifiers, which is basically the names assigned by the programmers to variables, functions, and classes. All of these three are actually defined by the Python programmer. So while developing our code, we need to, at some point, we will be needing to declare some variable to store some value. We need to declare some function to do some repeated work or to have a chunk of statements, program statements together, which is responsible for doing some particular job. And we will be at some point we will be needing to declare one class, which is basically a clubbing or encapsulation of these two. That is, a class is an encapsulation of variables together with functions which are actually working on those variables. So we have discussed that variables are the named places in the memory, particularly in the virtual memory space. But as we have discussed, from the primary and secondary memories perspective, it is basically the primary memory or the RAM. So any declaration of a variable is actually happening in the memory, that is the primary memory in our machine, basically creating one container to store some data. And this data will be later on will be referring to as identifiers. The data will be the data will be called literals. Sorry for the confusion. The variable is will be treated as an identifier. So we have discussed these things in the last class. We also have discussed about different types. A variable is basically a container. So container which is used to store biscuits is not actually a very nice one, or appropriate one to store something like water. So that's why different type of containers are needed to store different type of data or different type of values. So to check whether, to check what type of data is actually stored in a variable, there is a dedicated function for that, which is type. We have seen that. Also, we have seen that this equals to operator or assignment operator can be used to set a variable with some value or with some literals. So any variable can be initialized with some value using this equals to operator. We have also discussed that this is basically an assignment statement. Comparing between a statement and expression, we have discussed in the last class that this is an assignment statement, this is a print statement. And also the same thing, name equals to Tom, this statement is will be printing the value Tom, but the same variable or same container can also store the value Jerry. After that, if I print the name, print the variable name, in that case it will be printing the value Jerry. That is, the older value will be overwritten by the newer value. Okay, so there is a very traditional doubt that you can, or not actually doubt, but one very fundamental thing that you might be wondering is whether we can swap two variables or swap to values stored in two different containers. For example, if I have two variables A and B declared, A is containing the value 35 and B is containing the value 57. So can I somehow interchange the value so that A will be containing the value stored in B, that is A will be containing the value 57 and B will be containing the value 35. Now those of you who have already done some programming in your earlier curriculum, you have already you already know how to do that. So can someone volunteer to help me write the code to so that I have two variables 35, A containing 35 and B containing 57. Now if I print A comma B, so this will be basically printing the value. So basically let me write it in a proper way. A equals to 35 and then B equals to 57. Now, those of you who had already had some programming knowledge, if I want to interchange them, if I want to put the value 57 in A and 35 in B, how can we do that? Anyone? Okay. So with the previous knowledge, what we need to do is we need to have a third container. And in that third container, we will be putting one of the values either from A or from B. And later on, we will be using that third container. Basically, we'll be using the third container as a bridge, as a container value to be used as a cache. Right. So can someone help me write that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
So we can take C is equal to B,
C equals to B.
and next we can take A is equal to B.
A is
No,
equal to no.
no. B, sorry. So B is equal to A.
And then A equals
A,
to
A
C.
is equal to C, yes.
What I am doing here? So C is basically this auxiliary container. So I am storing the value of B, in that additional auxiliary container. Now I can overwrite the value of B because the value of B is already stored in C. So what I am doing is after this statement, if I print, so after each statement, let's print the value of A and B. Also A and B and together with C. Then it will be much more clear. So after this statement, okay. So after this statement, after the line number 1 here, C equals to B, A will be containing the value that is already stored in A, that is 35. B will be containing the same value 57 because the value of A and B is remaining the same. Here the new variable C or auxiliary variable C will be containing the value of B. So the first statement will be printing A equals to 35, B equals to 57 and C equals to 57. Now in this statement what I am doing is B equals to A. Now what I am doing is, as we have already stored the value of B in C, we have already stored the value 57 in C, I am overwriting the value in B with the value of A. So after this, if I print, so it will be printing 35, 35, 57, isn't it? A will be still 35 because I haven't touched A yet. I already used, now B is overwritten. The B is now containing 35, the previous value, the present value of A, and C is actually storing the value that was in B. Okay. After that, in this statement, what I'm doing is the value stored in C, I'm putting in A. So now this statement will be printing 57, 35, and 57. So the value of this auxiliary variable is not of our concern. Our target was to overwrite, or our target was to swap the value stored in A and B. So now after these statements, we can, as you can see, I am storing, after using this auxiliary variable C, I have swapped the value that was stored in A and B. So in the beginning, A was containing 35, B was containing 57. Now A is containing 57 and B is containing 35. So this was a way to interchange or to swap two values stored in two different variables. Okay. Now, this is from your earlier knowledge, those of you who had already done some programming, you know that whenever we'll be declaring one auxiliary parameter, auxiliary variable here, C, we need to declare its data type as well. For example, if A and B are integers, in this case they are integers, if I want to swap them using an auxiliary variable C, we need to declare a variable of type C, type int. That is, the data type of C should be the same as A and B. So in that case, as you can, I mean, I hope you have seen that if say A is containing 1 and B is containing say TWO, in this case, can you say what's actually happening? I mean, so basically A is containing an integer. A is containing an integer, but B is containing one string, right? So with our previous knowledge about C or C++, this type of thing is not actually permissible in those languages. But this is an exception in Python. If I do the same thing here, it will be actually swapping the values. So let's just exclude them. So if I execute this, you can see A is containing 1, B is containing 2, TWO. And at the end of these three statements, you can see A is containing 2 and B is containing 1. So the value of A and B are actually swapped, but as compared to our knowledge about C or C++ or Java, we can understand that this is actually not possible in those languages. This is one very, this is an advantage of using Python. Python is a dynamically typed language. What is dynamically typed? We'll be discussing in a minute. Along with this type of way of swapping two variables, there is another way. So, such as, so if I print the value of A and B, so A is containing 2, B is containing 1. Another way of swapping the values of A and B in Python is like this. This statement will put the value stored in B in A and the value stored in A in B. This is exactly the same as these three statements taken together, or as I have written here. So if I execute this and then if I print the value of A and B, you'll be seeing earlier the value of A was 2, value of B was 1. Now the value of A has become 1 and the value of B has become 2. As I said, this is an advantage of Python. Any question up to this? In comparison to your earlier knowledge about programming in C, C++ or Java. Do you have any question? All right. As I have said a couple of minutes back, Python is a dynamically typed language. Formally, Python is actually a strongly and dynamically typed language, which means that Python interpreter does this type checking only when the code runs, and that the type of the variable is allowed to change over its lifetime. So here in this example, as you can see, initially A was containing a value of string type. Later on, at the end of this program, at the end of this line of a statement execution, you can see A is containing one integer. So during its lifetime, A can contain any type of data, any type of value it can store. It also prevents actually mixing of types. in this example, you can see this is a string. I am mixing a string with an integer. This plus. This is actually an erroneous statement in Python. That is, a string cannot be mixed with an integer, and we cannot perform an addition between an integer and a string. So if I really want to add them, we either need to convert both of them to integers or both of them to strings. In this case, hello cannot be actually converted into integer, but 5 can be converted into string. Do you know how to do that? Can you guess? Anyone? So to convert, so print hello plus 5, you can see it is a type error. Must be string, not integer. So this thing must be string. So to convert this into string, one way is doing this, of course. Another way is using this str function, which is again another inbuilt function in Python. So now this has become basically 5 in quote, that is 5 as a string. Me? Please respond.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. And if we like this, if we want to explicitly convert, we can use a function like int, or in this case, in this example, as we have used this str function, or in this example, as we have used an int function, which is basically typecasting. This is the meaning of a strongly typing language. Python is also a dynamically typed language. That is, all type checkings will be done at the runtime. So earlier, with the knowledge of C, C++, or Java, we know that to use a variable, we first need to declare it. And while declaring it, we need to define what type of data it will be containing. If it is integer, we need to declare int, say a, and then only we can store a equals to 10. If we want to store some strings, let's not go into the details of strings now, because in C and in Java, the way strings are handled are completely different. So let's consider, say, you want to store the value of 3.14. So 3.1415, say you want to store the value of pi in a variable. In Python, what we can do is we can directly write some variable, say pi equals to 3.1415. In C, C++, or Java, those of you who had written codes, you know that this is actually not a valid statement, because before that we need to declare float pi. We need to declare it, then only we will be able to access it. But this is not actually the case for Python. It is dynamically typed. What is the advantage of this dynamic typing? As we have already seen, as we have already discussed, same variable can be used to store different values, different type of values. Like in this case, here earlier a was containing a value of type string, that is 2. After this statement, a is containing a value of type int. So from string to int. So this is the beauty of dynamic typing, which is actually a good feature, a very famous feature for Python. The second type of identifiers is function. So function is basically a set of statements together which is responsible for performing some specific task. So it actually helps develop a program. Basically, it helps a program to break up into different smaller chunks, such as if you want to make a large program which will be taking your username and password as input, and later on it will be checking whether your username password is correct or not. So of course, what you can do is you can write a single code, a single function, or a single chunk of code to do both the things, taking the input as well as checking whether username password combination is correct or not. Or you can break this your whole task up into two smaller chunks. One will be responsible for taking the input and the other will be responsible for checking whether the input, that is your username password combination, is correct or not. So in this example, I'm assuming that the username password combination is stored somewhere in your machine, and after taking the input, you will be checking, will be comparing them with the stored value, whether they are equal or not. In fact, we will be writing this type of codes later on. So this is basically the fundamental things regarding Python. It makes actually a code reusable, because such as consider another another component in your code or another feature in your code which again used to take the username password combination from the user. In that case, you don't have to write the function again. To write those statements again, you can just reuse the same function to do the same thing. You just need to call it. So the basic syntax of a function is like this. Def, from the color, as you can understand, this is the keyword to define a function. This is the function name or the identifier name, which is provided by the Python programmer, and the function takes a set of parameters, and it will be executing a set of statements line by line. So these will be the statements. Now, what is parameter? We'll be discussing later on. But we have already seen some functions such as print or input, like that. So broadly, there are two types of functions in Python. One is Python built-in function, that is developed by the Python language developer, and the second is user-defined function, or which will be developed by the Python programmer, that is us. So we will be reusing, or we will be using the functions that are developed by the program developer, Python developer, such as, can someone give some example about some built-in functions that we have already used?
Math.
Print,
Can you please repeat?
input.
Input, correct. Input, print, int. For loop is not actually a function, so we'll be discussing that. For loop, that is a different thing. For is a keyword which is a reserved word which has some designated meaning. So don't get confused. This is a very legit confusion, whether a keyword is actually, whether a function or whether a built-in function is actually a keyword or not. No. Built-in function are the functions that are developed by the Python developer, and the keywords are also defined by the developer. They are not actually the same. We'll be discussing this. Give me a couple of minutes. We'll be discussing this with an example. So in this course, we'll be mainly discussing or concentrating on this second part, defining user-defined function or programmer-defined function. So by user, I meant Python user, that is Python programmer. We will be using the Python language to define or to write some code to perform their tasks. So this is an example. So this is an example Python function, def summation, which is taking two parameters here. These are the two parameters here, a and b, and it is returning a plus b. Here def and return are two keywords or reserved words which have some designated meaning. Is actually taking these two parameters and returning the addition of them. That is, it is basically adding them up. So from our earlier knowledge about this, we can understand these a and b should be having same data type. If they are of mixed data type, it will be providing us with a type error, as we have seen in our Jupyter notebook. like if we convert, if we change this, we'll be getting this type error. This is the definition of a function. This is how we'll be defining a function, and to call this function. So note that defining a function is not actually calling the function. So to call a function means we want to execute the statements defined in this function. So to call a function, we just need to name the function. We need to specify the name of the function together with the corresponding parameter values. In this case, I am calling the function summation with the parameters 54.3 and 51.3 and 54. These values will be copied here, and the result of the summation, which will be in this case numerical, basically it will be 105.3, and the numerical decimal value or float value will be returned, and that will be printed. Now you might be a little bit confused regarding one thing. I have specified that the data type of these two should be same, but here I have mentioned one float value, one integer value. Still, how this will work? Let's first write the code and see whether they will actually work or not. Summation a comma b. Oh, there is another mandatory colon here. So this colon is very much needed. So without this colon, it will not be working. So we'll be discussing this later, of course, utility. Return a plus b. Now to call, as I have mentioned, print, say summation. So I have specified 51.3 and I think 54, right? 54. Now if I call, you can see the 105.3 is actually getting returned. But if I make it say this, you'll see a type error. Why is this? Why are we getting an error for this and not an error for this? Anyone? Can someone guess?
So the number can be float or integer, but cannot be string.
Correct. The parameters should be numericals, or they should be, both of them should be of string type. This is perfectly fine. Here, this plus operator is working as a concatenation operator, that is adding them up. 54. Right. But in case the parameters are of numerical type, it should be okay, because in that case, both of them will be considered as float. Or if I just remove this, it will be considered as both of them as int. Okay. So we will be discussing function later during the 7th or 8th week, following our course plan. And then we'll be discussing all these things in more details. There are some other components as well. We'll be discussing why this return statement is necessary, whether there can be a function without a return statement, and so on. There are so many things that we'll be discussing regarding a function. Now, Python built-in function, as we have seen, there are two very useful Python built-in function that we have already used. One is for taking the input, which is input, and another one is for providing the output, that is print. These two functions we have already seen, which are Python defined function. Now note that these are not actually keywords. These are Python defined functions, right? So this Python defined function input is actually, the syntax is like this. Input, it can take a string as prompt, which is an optional field. For example, in this case, in this code snippet, I am using the input function, and as this prompt, I am providing the string enter a number. Now, here in this example, I have declared one name variable equals to input enter a number. Now, this code is actually correct, but there can be some issue regarding this. Can someone notice this? Can someone pinpoint what can be the issue? The statement is correct. Yes, please go ahead.
It's a string. The input
Correct.
will
So I am saying, I am prompting the user to enter a number, but the number that the user is providing is actually considered as a string. So these are some of the pitfalls that your programs might be having later on. So please make sure that whatever you are saying in your code, in your prompt like this, you are doing the same. So to kind of correct it, or as I am prompting the user to enter a number, I should be treating the input as a number. But here I am treating it as a string. So I should not be doing that. I should be sticking to, or I should be doing whatever way I am actually prompting the user to input or to give us the input, give your program the input. In that way, you will be able to bypass some of the basic errors that we may encounter. The second built-in function, very important, is Python
Hello, sir.
print. Yes, please.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
In the previous example where you were with the define summation, so after summation, is there a space?
No.
So actually, if
Okay.
I type
Okay.
this directly from my shell,
Right.
So first, if I type define def summation, then comma a b,
Mhm.
then I have to press enter, then I can type
Correct.
return a plus b, right?
Correct. Let me show you that as well in your interactive way as well. So Python 3 def sum say a comma b colon. Now you can see the prompt is waiting here. A very necessary thing in Python, which is not actually the case again for C, C++ or Java, is indentation. Those of you who had written your codes in C, C++ or Java, your teacher, in your earlier curriculum, I guess the instructor of those courses have requested you to put some indentation after putting some bracket. Right after opening a for loop, after putting the second bracket, I guess the instructor would have suggested you to put some space after that to have an indentation. Here, as these brackets are missing, earlier, for those of you who have some knowledge about C, C++ or Java function definition, they can relate that instead of this colon, there was some second bracket like this or curly brace like this, right? But for Python programmer, there is no such case as bracket for defining a chunk of data together. What we have is indentation. As you can see, there is a set of spaces here, actually 4 spaces here, 1, 2, 3, 4. One spaces we would also do, but in this case, I have put 4 spaces. That's not actually an issue. Here in this prompt, I need to provide at least 1 space. I'm pressing a tab. That's why it is providing 4 spaces here. Now I can return or I can write the statement here, a plus b. Enter, enter. Now sum is defined. Now I need to call this sum with say something like 3, 5. And now if I press enter, you can see sum. So basically this is printing 8. So this space is actually necessary. This is called a necessary indentation in Python. We will be discussing this when we will be starting our discussion on loops, because for loops like while loop or for loop, this is actually a necessary thing. Is the question for the time being clear? Yes, this is a necessary space that we should be providing. Why? We will be discussing this later. Okay? Please respond who asked the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. So regarding spaces, here is a mandatory space, but there can be multiple spaces in between def and summation. Here I have put 1 space, which is not actually necessary, but to make the function, make the code look good, I have put this space. Here can also be multiple spaces. Here can also be multiple spaces. After return, there should be at least one space. There can be multiple spaces. After A and after, I mean, before B or in between this plus, there can be multiple spaces. All of are okay, right? So spaces are just a kind of delimiter to specify the interpreter that I am ending one, one entity. That entity can be a keyword, like here in this case def, or that entity can be an identifier name, in this case, which is the name of the function. Now note that after summation, I haven't put any space, which is again, I can put a space or I cannot, I mean, I can exclude a space from putting as well. In this case, this bracket is actually, working as a delimiter as well as it has some specific meaning. Okay. So here, of course, I can put some spaces. All right. So regarding the print function, which is again a built-in function in Python, but is not a keyword. The syntax earlier in our code, the codes that we have written so far, we have written only print and we have printed some values. But formally, the print function specifically has 5 parameters: objects, or the set of entities that we want to print, or set of values that we want to print, sep and end. These are 2 characters that we want to print respectively in between the values and at the end of the, as the last character while ending this print statement. There are 2 other parameters like file and flush. File is by default set to sys.stdout, which is the default value. Stdout is the short form for standard out. Our standard output device is our, by default, all the print statement is printing the value in our screen. So this is the default value. Later on, we will be discussing on how to write the statement in an actual file stored in a secondary device. In that case, we will be discussing about how to change this and what, to what value we can change this so that the values to be printed can be printed in a file. Now let's discuss this sep and end in details. So sep is basically the separator character that will be printed in between the objects here. Now let's look at this example. Here, let's look at only, say, a single statement here. So you can see here there is a space, right? So what I have printed here, A space B, then A, but there is one space here between this equals to and the value of A. Also, there is a space here as well. So these spaces are not due to this space. If I exclude these spaces, it will be remaining the same. The output is same. A space equals to, then the value of A is printed, but in between there is a space. Now this comma is basically stating that this is one object and this is another object. So here the first parameter, as you can see, is a set of objects or set of values, and the delimiter between them is basically space, comma here. So here in this statement there are one object, 2 object, 3 object, 4 object, 5 object, and 6 object. Basically 6 objects are there in this print statement, and each of the objects are separated by comma. But here these 6 objects are getting printed. This is the first object, A space equals to, second object is sorry 1, third object is b space equals to, fourth object is 2, and so on. This is the fifth object and this is the sixth object, but there are some spaces that have been this sep parameter, which is by default set to space. Now if I want to specify, say I want to print say $$. You can see earlier it was printing spaces, now it is printing this $$. These $3, they are printed between the 6 objects. Now this is the use of this sep parameter. The other parameter is end, which is basically the last character to be printed. To display this, let's write another code. Print, say, hello Guppy. You can see after this hello Guppy, the next statement is getting printed in the next line. How are you? So who is printing? So I am not actually, so there is basically a new line character here. So the character which is responsible for taking the cursor or taking the ensuring the next character to be printed will be on in the next line is basically a new line character. So who is putting that? It is basically incorporated by this end parameter, which is by default set to new line. So if I put end, so if you want to print this statement together in the same line, what you need to do, so those of you who are wondering what if I put this both this statement in the same line, it will be an error, right? Because it's an invalid statement. Now this is okay. Now what if I want to put this both of these print statements in the same line? In that case we need to provide end equals to something which is not new line. So by default it is /n, which is basically the new line. Now if I put say again say hash, you can see in between after this 2 hashes are printed, which is the last character getting printed in the screen, and then the next print statement is executed, and that's why this hello Guppy and how are you are getting printed in the same line. In between there are 2 hashes. Any question up to this? Please respond.
No, sir.
So actually there will be, during discussion on loops, we will be encountering with some pattern printing where this will be actually necessary to be set to some other values rather than these default values. So if I do not provide this, this is considering the end to be set as a new line. /n is a new line, we'll be discussing this. And the sep is by default set to space. So if I do not provide anything, it will be considered as default values. Now the fifth parameter. For the fifth parameter, let's write one code. The fifth parameter is basically flush, which is by default set to false. So it basically forcibly flush the content which is stored in the buffer. So let's write one code. Say proc.py. Let's not, if you do not understand all the details, don't worry, we'll be discussing this in details later. From time import slip, then print say hello, and I am setting the end to say space, and then I am calling one function So basically this function is defined in this what is called module. So I am just to call this function, I am just importing or including this module. That's it. So sleep 5 and then I am printing say world. Now what is the expected output? So if I just for the time being, if I comment this out, if let's consider this line is not here, so what will be the output of this code? Only these two statements. So basically hello world will be printed in the same line, right? I hope you can understand this. Hello and world will be printed in the same line. And as I have said end to space, that's why there is a space in between hello and world. And they are printed all together. Now, if I put this sleep in between, sleep say 3. Now, if I execute, you can see nothing is getting printed. Now, after 3 seconds, hello and world, both of these statements are getting printed all together. You can see nothing is getting printed. 1, 2, 3. Basically, 3 seconds. After 3 seconds later, both of the print statements are getting executed. This is because the first hello statement is not actually printed, it is stored in the buffer. And by default, the buffer is stored until and unless you are encountering one new line. So that's why I have set this end to space. So that's why this statement is actually printing, is supposed to be printing hello. That's it. Hello and one space. 6 characters. HELLO space. And the buffer, as it is not encountering this all together. The buffer will only be printing only if it is encountering one new line or only if it is overflowing. That is, in case the buffer is full. To forcibly flush, so basically printing from the buffer to the screen in this case is called flushing. To flush by default, as I have said, flush is set to false. Now, if you want to overwrite it, you need to define this flush parameter. You need to set it to value true. Now, if I execute this, you'll be seeing hello printed. Then after 3 seconds, world is printed. What it is doing is this flush true, although the buffer is not full, also the buffer is not containing one new line. For this statement, the buffer will be flushed. That is, the buffer is containing 6 characters, HELLO and space, and the total content will be printed in your screen. And then this sleep 3 statement is putting the program into sleep in a state. Sleep means it will be in a state which is not doing anything. It is just sleeping. It will be put this statement, this program into sleep mode for 3 seconds. And after 3 seconds, it will be executing the next line, which is printing this next parameter, next value, that is world. So that's why if I execute this, you can see after hello, 1, 2, 3. If you look at the clock, after 3 seconds, it will be printing this word. Any question regarding the different parameters of print?
Sir, if we do flash false, what happened?
Flash false is the default value. So it will be again hello, and then it will be it will not be printing anything. Then after 3 seconds, it will be printing both hello and world.
Oh, okay, sir.
So that is by default. Again, flash false is the default value. So flash equals to false. Giving flash equals to false or not giving anything is basically same. This is basically same. If I want to, so basically it is a default value. Yes, question.
Sir, actually, I didn't get why if the default value is false, but still it is not printing the hello. And I didn't get that.
Yes. Okay. So again, I'm repeating. Basically, this statement, this print statement is containing 6 characters. HELLO space. Okay.
Yes.
Now, as I said, the thing, so these 6 characters before printing into the value, as we have discussed in the first class, there is a thing called buffer or cache memory. So that cache memory is containing these 6 characters before it is getting printed in our screen. So it is basically stored in our virtual memory, but for the time being we can consider that these 6 characters HELLO and space are stored in the primary memory before getting printed in the screen. Now it will be printed in the screen only if this buffer memory is full. In that case, it will be freeing the buffer memory so that it can take the next things to be printed. In that case, it will be printing the whole thing stored in the buffer memory, or if in case it is encountering one new line. In that case, taking the whole content of the buffer memory, in this case, these 6 characters, it will be printing in the screen and making the buffer memory again empty, so that the next characters are getting printed. Now this sleep is specifying, so if I exclude these 2 lines, this will be definitely printing hello, as you can see hello. But after this after this print statement, so basically now this code is ending here. After this statement the program is ending, so that's why again while ending the buffer will be again empty, buffer will be again flushed. But here I am specifying one statement sleep. Sleep is specifying the interpreter or your command or your executor, program executor, that the program is not ending here, the program is going into a sleep mode now. So that's why the buffer is not empty or buffer is not flushed at this point. So that's why if you really want to flush the buffer forcibly, this is called flushing the buffer forcibly, you need to provide this flush true. Now you can, if I execute, you can see now the program is still executing. Now the program has terminated. So after the execution, hello, after printing this hello, it is waiting for 3 seconds because it has been put in the sleep mode, and then it is terminating. But let me tell you this, if this is not clear, I mean we can discuss this later as well, but don't don't worry, because this is the thing which we will be hardly changing. We will be changing basically these 3, particularly these 2 in pretty near future. In couple of classes after we will be changing these 2, and we will be changing this later on while handling files. So we will be not be touching, or we will be not be changing this default flush value. Okay, any further question? Okay, then let's move ahead. So in the last class, some of you had asked me a question, how to print a quotation mark. For example, how to have a I'm online, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how to print a quote statement. So here Satyajit Ray in quote, then apostrophe S, father was Sukumar Ray, comma, a famous writer, again quote. So in this case, this is actually an erroneous statement. So if I execute this, you can see it is a syntax error. So the interpreter is considering this as the first object, and then as there is no comma, which is the separator between the different objects, it is considering it as an invalid syntax error, and you can see the interpreter is also showing where the syntax error is happening. So one way of doing that is, as we have seen, use single quote and double quote interchangeably. So if there is a single quote inside your statement, we can put a double quote here. That in this case, it will be printing the desired output. But also we can do this, which is also not actually a valid statement, because Satyajit raised there should not be a double quote here. But what if we want to print a statement like this? Netaji's famous quote, here is a single quote, give me blood, I will give you freedom. How to print this? So as you can see in the statement, there are two, both the statements, both the single quotes and double quotes are there. So if I have this is actually erroneous, because as you can see, this is in quote. So basically I am starting with double quote, but the content is also containing a double quote. And if I change this double quote to single quote, again there is a single quote in between. Single quote in between. So how to do this? The way to print this is using a character that is called escape character. So those of you, again, with some programming knowledge, those of you know about escape characters. Basically, the backslash is basically considered as a specially designated character, which is called the escape character. It is used for inserting characters that are not allowed in a string to be printed. For example, in this case, if we really want to print this double quote here, we just need to escape that using this escape character. Now this statement, in this statement, this is the actually this first quote and this last quote, the quotation mark double quotes are basically the component to specify that the inner thing is basically a string. So the whole thing that I selected here is the string that I want to print. Now here there is a single quote which is actually allowed because I am starting with double quote. Single quote is allowed. Here there is a double quote inside the string. So what I am doing is I am escaping this double quote with front backslash. Again, the ending, the quotation ending is also escaped by the escape character backslash. Now if I execute this, you can see the corresponding thing is getting printed. So this is called a escape character. Also, I can put a backslash here as well. In that case also, it will not be a problem. Okay, so in Python, there are plenty of escape characters, but some of the useful ones are like this. So backslash single quote will be printing single quote, we have seen. Backslash double quote will be printing double quote. In case you want to print a backslash, inside your print statement, you need to write 2 backslashes, because the first backslash will be escaping, will be overriding its default meaning. So if I want to print printing backslash. So now if I execute this, as you can understand, this backslash is basically escaping the next double quote, which will be giving us an error. So if I really want to print a backslash, that backslash should be escaped by another backslash. Now you can see printing backslash, the backslash is getting printed. This is called escape character. all of this also, new line character is a very useful character that we have already seen. Useful character using backslash that we will be using throughout our course. There are so many situations where this new line is a necessary character to be printed. Also, we have seen that by default the end value for print is set to this new line. Also, tab is basically 4 spaces or 8 spaces consist of a tab. So if you want to, so those of you who had written some, who had used some text editor like Notepad or Microsoft Word, you can see there is in your keyboard there is a character, there is a key called tab just over the caps lock key. So pressing this can actually, if you open a notebook and if you press the tab, you can see the cursor is shifted in the right by 4 characters or 8 characters. So that is basically the tab character. That is basically the responsibility of the tab character to print 4 characters using a single character. All right. So again, revisiting the print inbuilt function, we have already discussed this. Parameter, which is basically the last character to be printed. The default value is /n, that is the new line character. So by default, all the objects, after printing all the objects, a new line character will be printed. I'll ask you to experiment with different, setting different values for sep and end at your end. Just write some print statements and use different sep and end values and check what are the outputs that you are getting. Okay, moving ahead. So the third identifier is basically class. So as I have said earlier, Python is an object-oriented programming language, and in Python everything is basically an object of some class. Such as, I think if you have noticed carefully, this class thing you have already seen, say equals to 10. Now in the last class, I have printed the type of A. You can see the type of A has been printed as class int. In this case, basically, this A is basically, I was referring to A as a variable, but if I follow the perfect terminology, A is basically an object of integer class. So in other words, all the objects I will be referring to as variables for this Python course. So earlier during your life with C, C++ or Java, we have seen that variables and objects are 2 different things, but for Python, these are essentially the same thing. Here A is a variable which is an object of class int. So classes we will be discussing again later in this course. And we'll be writing some classes using some concepts as well. So any question up to this?